Are we going to start like this every week?
I guess. I don't know.
uh,
Yes, we are live. Right.
like this every week?
I guess.
There we go.
All right, welcome in. Good morning, soccer and football fanatics alike. We are back here with our live betting show, Edging a Win, and we are excited because we went 3-1 last week. But before we get into our best bets for this week, we have to introduce the face of the program. Please welcome in knower of all things soccer, expert in tomfoolery, and of course, a lifelong friend from the seas, Mr. Ian Allen from E&O UFC here on YouTube. How are you doing, sir?
Freshly beard trimmed and freshly moisturized as well, Matt. I'm feeling pretty good in a freezing cold United Kingdom. Great to be here once again. We are going to be looking at some best bets for the week in what should be another exciting weekend of soccer action. We're going to be looking at scorned teams from last week. It's going to be a tale of revenge as we go through our best bets this week. So expect to see a lot of wrath coming from the people that we're backing.
I'm excited. We had a great first show, with the exception of audio. I think the audio has been fixed. If somebody can tell me we can hear Ian this week, that would be great. I think I am getting confirmation that it does sound good. But we have a fun show lined up for everyone, and I want everybody to stick around to the end where Ian gives us his EFL parlay of the day. I think it's priced at plus 800. But a couple quick items before we get to our first best bet. As Ian might say, a little bit of housekeeping here. Our social media is on the screen. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Everybody needs to go over to Ian OUFC. Follow him for all things soccer. Also, at the bottom of the screen, you're going to see the odds of the most prominent matches this weekend in soccer. So if you're looking for a particular game's odds, you're most likely going to find it down there. And finally, during the live stream, please chat with us and ask us any questions you like. I promise I'm going to get to each and every one, but without further ado, let's get into our three best bets of the weekend. And this first one, I believe we're looking at Serie A. What do we got in this league, Ian?
Well, the first team, scorned team, is Napoli, and they're up against Atalanta today. It is a 5 o'clock my time, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we are going straight up for Napoli on the money line in this game. They are looking to bounce back after they had their first defeat in ages, a 1-0 defeat last weekend to Lazio. The Neapolitans are runaway leaders in Serie A, and they'd won the previous 8 games, scoring 21 goals in the process and only conceding 2 in that time. And they seem an absolute shoo-in to win their first Italian title since 1990. So it's been a long time coming for Napoli fans. Lazio weren't able to put the pressure on last night, losing 2-1 to Spezia. Really bad result for them. So expect Napoli to come out all guns blazing and beat this Atalanta side. Atalanta have been a really enjoyable side to watch over the last few seasons, probably one of the most entertaining sides in Europe, but they've gone a bit off the boil this week. Not in recent weeks, sorry. Only 1 win in the last 5. They are still a pretty good side going forward, but it's in defence where they have their problems, and I expect this Napoli front 3 to really overpower Atalanta, and it ought to be a solid home win for Napoli.
All this talk about Neapolitan kind of makes me hungry here at 9 a.m. for some ice cream. Quick question, though, because I'm not too familiar with the whole Napoli team. They are running away with the title, as you mentioned, even more so today than yesterday. Who are the stars here on this team carrying them away with this?
Well, you're going to test my pronunciation skills now, aren't you, Matt? That's the biggest problem. Look, they got a really strong side, and it's really built on a strong defence, this Napoli side. They haven't conceded many goals, but going forward, they've lit up Serie A with 2 players in particular. The Nigerian striker, Victor Osimhen, who scored 19 goals this season. I'm probably butchering that name, but the absolute gem in the pack who's come out of nowhere is the Georgian striker, left winger, if you like. Here we go. Carves, oh, goodness me.
Cardi B? Is that what you were going to say?
No. Varteshkila is his name, and if that sounds rehearsed, I have been practicing it, and if you can't pronounce it and you don't know the name, you will know it soon enough, because he has been a revelation this season, a wonderful football player, has come seemingly out of nowhere, scores goals, creates goals, but just very exciting on the field as well. Expect to see this guy. If Napoli can keep hold of him, he'll light up Serie A, but the big boys will be circling around trying to sign him away from Napoli. That is for sure. But a real talent. And as I say, you will learn his name, if not this year, but certainly in the coming years.
I might learn his name. I don't know if I'll ever be able to pronounce it. So Napoli on the money line today. First best bet of the game. Let's move into a different league, Ligue 1. This is the French league here. We got Brest and PSG. What do you like in this matchup today?
Yep, so this was taking place. This is 8 p.m. my time, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going for goals in this one. If Napoli absolutely mess it up and they get us off to a bad start, we're going to hopefully get back with a banker in this one. We're going over 2.5 goals in Brest versus Paris Saint-Germain. PSG are scorned side number 2, and it comes from their Champions League exit, a competition they always seem to want to win but never seem to win. They lost to Bayern Munich, and they will be looking to bounce back and try and get a big result against Brest. Almost you could say they're trying to motorboat their way through Brest, Matt, this afternoon as they're looking for a big win. Look, PSG, jokes aside, the last 6 games, they've scored over 2.5 goals in pretty much all of them. Brest are struggling down the bottom of Ligue 1 and have a poor defence, and it's a defence that makes a lot of mistakes as well. They're also one of the lowest possession stats teams in Ligue 1 as well. So you're probably just going to see wave after wave of PSG attack coming at this Brest back line. So, as I said, this should be our banker of the week. So we should get it. Over 2.5 goals on this Brest versus PSG.
Now, I know we are going to talk about Champions League here in a little bit, and you mentioned PSG was just knocked out of Champions League this past week. Another disappointing result for them. So the question I pose to you is, will that star-studded team be able to hold on to those stars after another failure?
Well, the 3 stars in particular are the ones in question, isn't it? And it's all the more likely that they're going to lose some of them. There's been talks about Neymar going back to Spain. There's been talks about Mbappe moving away from PSG for years now. And there's obviously Messi. You just don't see the effort and the energy in Messi. Yes, he scored a couple of late goals for them, but the guy we saw in the World Cup, leading from the front, charging with the bit between his teeth, dragging Argentina up in game after game, you just don't see that. And quite often he's reduced to just walking around the pitch and not really looking that interested. So I'd be amazed if PSG were able to keep these players. How can they just keep these players year after year when the Champions League is really the only thing they're playing for? Ligue 1 is such a formality for them. They just dominate this league. There isn't really the challenge for them. And they just keep messing up the Champions League. They've had times where they've got close before. They never seem to get the job done. I'd be amazed if any of them stay next season. I think it's going to be a complete rebuild for this PSG side.
Yeah, a couple thoughts. You're right. PSG every year with Ligue 1, they run away with it. I actually thought Marseille would eventually come up and compete with them, but they still haven't been able to get over that hump. On the terms of Messi and them, with Messi winning that World Cup, maybe that's why he doesn't care anymore. Maybe that was the pinnacle of what he wanted in his career, and now he's just going out, taking the paycheck, and moving on. I don't know, but there is a lot that you would expect. With it. They're kind of the Yankees of baseball in the mid-2000s. You'd expect a lot more, but not much happened.
Yeah. So no, you're right. I mean, and you do see it where, especially in this midweek game, where all of Paris were basically going to be looking towards Messi as almost like, come on, do something. And he just didn't look, terrible to say for such a great player, but he just didn't look that interested.
Yeah. Well, I know we haven't touched on the Premier League, so let's do that. There's a shocker brewing, actually, at the moment. Bournemouth is still up 1-0 on Liverpool. But let's look to tomorrow, where there's a good game. Man U, Southampton, and Man U's coming off not a great result.
Can we just take a minute to laugh at Man United after that result? That's an understatement and a half. Yes, Man United are scorned side number 3, and we're looking at their game against Manchester United versus Southampton. It's tomorrow, 2 p.m. my time, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So get up and get your bets on. Actually, I think that might be 10 a.m. if I'm not mistaken, because your clocks go forward. Is that right?
I think that is at 10 a.m. tomorrow. Yeah.
10 a.m. So you got a bit more time, bit of a lay-in before you can get on that one. But look, yeah, Man United are coming off what it can only be described as a humiliation against Liverpool last weekend. It was a joke of a second half performance where they conceded 6 goals without reply, losing 7-0 overall. Couldn't happen to a nicer club, really, but they were humiliated. It was humiliating for their fans, humiliating for their manager, humiliating for their players. And the worst thing of all is those players just seemed to give up. I just couldn't believe how petty those Man United players got in the second half, that they didn't even want to try. They stopped even caring about the result, which is unforgivable, really. So they need to win back those fans. And Erik ten Hag is a ruthless manager, and he won't accept that sort of performance from those Man United players again. And he'll be quite thankful that Southampton, lowly Southampton down the bottom of the league, will be the side in the crosshairs that Manchester United will be going out to absolutely hammer. I'm sorry, I realise I didn't give the bet. I'm supposed to do it at the top. But we are going for Man United to beat the spread in this game. We're going for Man United -2 in this one. You could go for Man United -1. I think we got that result down the bottom. You could go for goals, but I think we're going to see a raging Manchester United. We saw them put Betis to the sword in the Europa League in the week. I think you'll see them do the same to this Southampton side. You'll see all the likes of Rashford, Fernandes, Anthony, really trying to go out there and impress the Man United fans to try and win over that Old Trafford faithful that deservedly gave them a lot of criticism. Southampton, they're struggling. They're down the bottom of the league. You take James Ward-Prowse out of their side. Is there really a lot of quality there? Ruben Sellers is their 3rd manager of the season. They did get a win last night out against Leicester, but they invited a lot of pressure on themselves. It was quite amazing that they didn't concede in that game. And I do expect Man United to come out and win this game quite comfortably. Remember, Man United have beaten Southampton 9-0 in the recent past.
That's crazy. After the 7-0 butt whooping they took, and listen, honestly, from an American standpoint, that's really equivalent to losing in American football 70-0 probably. And after that kind of game in at least American football, there'd be talk of firing. Any inkling of maybe Erik ten Hag maybe getting fired after that result, or is he on the hot seat?
Yeah, in usual instances, you would expect that, but no, there's been no talk of it at all. I think generally Erik ten Hag's come in and done a good job with his Manchester United side. I talked last week how it is a resurgent Man United. Apart from that one result there, they are a side that are looking like they're more like old Manchester United of old, a side that's going to be challenging up the top of the league. The mentality's generally been pretty good. So I think he'll be quite surprised and quite disgusted at what the players turned out for him last week. And it kind of shows him that there's still work to be done to get rid of the bad influences. You saw how he dealt with Ronaldo quite ruthlessly in the past. And but there's still a lot of weeds to kind of dig out of this garden. But I don't think there's been any talk of Ten Hag, and I don't think any of the Man United fans are putting any pressure on him. I think they're solely putting that on the players being terrible.
Fantastic. Hey, before we get out of Premier League, Brandon actually in the chat wanted to know, you have any thoughts on Newcastle win?
They've struggled. Newcastle have just struggled for goals of late. They've been really impressive in the first half of the season. A lot of draws for Newcastle of late and really struggled to find wins. I would be reluctant to back Newcastle for a win just because it just seemed like a side that's more likely to draw games rather than win games lately.
They're a nervous team to bet, in my opinion. I really stay away from Newcastle. Like Newcastle, Southampton, Crystal Palace. I'm typically not on those teams in favor for them because typically when I go against them, they screw me. So I can never really get an inkling of how they're going to be. But
yeah, I would say they have been a lot more. They have been, in the last sort of 6 or 7 weeks, Newcastle have come off the board a little bit, but they have been a very much improved side this season to what they have been in the past. Obviously, that money injection from the Saudis has helped. But I think Eddie Howe has definitely built a strong defense first which has seen them hardly concede many goals in many games, but they just have struggled to score a lot of goals at the top end of the pitch. So you're probably right to maybe be cautious when you're backing them.
Well, I love all three of those best bets from you, Ian. I know we got a lot more to get to, so let's get to it. There's a ton of stuff going on around the world. So before we get to my best bet in the MLS and your EFL parlay, what are some of the other matches this weekend that maybe jump out to you?
Yeah, well, so let's start looking at the Premier League. Obviously, you've got the top two. You've got Crystal Palace away at Manchester, home to Manchester City. Man City got to keep the pressure on Arsenal. Palace is usually a bit of a bogey side or booger side. I don't know what you call it, a nemesis for. I don't know what the American equivalent of that is, but we call it a bogey side for Man City, and they've caused them many upsets in the past, so that won't be an easy game. Fulham, home to Arsenal. Arsenal obviously got out of jail big time with that result against Bournemouth last weekend, but they're sitting pretty at the top of the table, and they'll quite fancy their chances of playing against the Fulham side that generally are quite open and quite expansive. And Arsenal will expect to kind of get another nice, maybe not comfortable, but a good enough win in that one. In Germany, we've got the German title race. Bayern Munich look like they're kind of getting the job done, pulling away. Bayern Munich are home to Augsburg, expect an easy win in that one. But you do have the Rhine derby of Schalke versus Dortmund taking place this weekend as well. Dortmund usually come out on top. Schalke struggling down the bottom. But Dortmund did lose to Chelsea in the week. Maybe you see a few cracks in that side, and maybe Schalke can take advantage because they have been in some okay form. I think they've had a couple of wins in the last couple of games. Move over to Italy. Bologna versus Lazio. Roma versus Sassuolo. Roma's always interesting because you've got that Mourinho factor of will he, what crazy thing will he do this week? And you've got on Monday night AC Milan versus Salienta. So those are the ones to look out for there. Runaway leaders in Spain are Barcelona. I think we've got Real Madrid playing now. I think if you just check that one, Matt, they were leading at home in that one, come from behind win in that one, I believe. That's still the same.
They're up 2. Real Madrid is up 2-1 in the 60th right now.
Yeah. But you got Athletic Bilbao versus Barcelona. You'd expect Barcelona to come away with that one. But just one side I'm just going to mention who don't get a lot of talk about, but Brentford. Brentford, 12 games unbeaten in the Premier League. One of the most enjoyable sides to watch, regularly play very exciting open football. The games usually consist of a lot of goals. And Thomas Frank's just doing an amazing job. So if you haven't checked out Brentford, go and check them out. They're usually a very, very good side to watch.
Yeah, that's a lot of great soccer this weekend. Some good matches. Sometimes this time of year, some of those title races aren't as close as you'd like. And that's kind of happening, in Serie A. Kind of the Bundesliga. EPL, that's having a good race. But what I love about this year is you got Champions League going on. So moving forward into Champions League coming up on Tuesday and Wednesday, I think the 14th and 15th, one of the big games that I am looking forward to is Liverpool. Can they erase a 3-goal deficit on the road? And is there anything else that you see in Champions League that kind of piques your interest, Ian?
Yeah, some interesting games. We'll start with that one first then. The Liverpool, Real Madrid versus Liverpool takes place on Wednesday. We've got all those games ticking down on the bottom as well, so you can see odds for those ones. But Liverpool trying to overturn 5-2 deficit from the first leg. Can they do it? Well, if you'd asked Liverpool fans after the game, after that 5-2 defeat, they'd have said no chance. But after they beat Man United, all of a sudden there was a bit of optimism. And all of a sudden Liverpool saying, we're going to go there, we're going to beat them 4-0. It's really difficult to see that happening. Liverpool have to almost play the perfect game if they're going to come out with anything from that. And the way we've seen them defend, you just cannot see them keeping a clean sheet in this one. If Liverpool have to get a goal early, then they have to kind of almost play on the nerves of Real Madrid and try and sort of hit them maybe late on in the game as well. But realistically, it's very difficult to see Liverpool coming from behind to get anything in this game. Other ones you've got on Wednesday, you've got Napoli versus Eintracht Frankfurt. We've talked about how good Napoli are. They're 2-0 up from the first leg. I wouldn't expect any hiccups in that one. Great to see Napoli getting through to the quarterfinals. Intrigue on Tuesday, though. You've got two really tight games. Porto versus Inter Milan, which is 1-0 to Inter from the first leg. So that one could really go either way. Porto will fancy their chances at home, spinning that one around. Man City versus Leipzig. This is Man City's holy grail to chase down this Champions League. It probably means more to them than winning the Premier League. But 1-1 with Leipzig after the first leg. So they're kind of on thin ice. You'd expect City to get the job done, but they're only one bad performance from another Champions League disappointment. And that game's not a formality. Leipzig are perfectly capable of causing an upset. However, you'd have to think City will get the job done.
Yeah, and we didn't see any extra time this past week in Champions League or any penalty kicks. I could see Porto Milan maybe going to some extra time. Yeah. I think, Liverpool, again, I don't think they're going to come back. And in fact, if it's the same Liverpool that's in the 93rd minute losing to Bournemouth right now 1-0, they're definitely not going to be able to come back.
Well, that's the thing we've talked about, hasn't it? With Liverpool, when they're at Anfield, I know Real Madrid's game aside, they've generally been really strong, but when they've played away, they've really struggled. And I don't think anybody knows why that is. I'm sure Jurgen Klopp can't put his finger on why it's happening. So to go away to the European world champions and to overturn a 5-2 defeat, I think you're asking a lot.
Yeah. Well,
I wouldn't. You'll get good odds on it, but I don't think you should put much money on it.
Pizza at the most.
Yes.
All right, well, that's enough world soccer news. I want to go into the MLS. First and foremost, if you missed our first show, you probably didn't know that edging a win, Ian and myself have adopted the expansion team of St. Louis SC, and they have stormed out to be atop the table in the Western Conference, picking up another win last weekend. In fact, their first ever home game, and it was a win against Charlotte. And again, it was a come-from-behind victory, as St. Louis SC shows us they have a lot of tenacity. They went down in the match 1-0 in the 25th minute, but the boys dug in, got a little bit of lucky. They had an own goal and a penalty kick in the last 4 minutes of the half to go up 2-1 at halftime, and then easily capped off the victory 3-1 by another goal by Klaus in the 71st minute. My favorite player, Klaus. In fact, he's got 2 goals in 2 games. I feel like this guy's being snubbed. I went over to bet on him to see if he would lead the MLS in goals, just out of curiosity. They don't even have this guy on the board. So, DraftKings, what are you doing? You got to put this guy on the board. He's got 2 goals in 2 games. He's on pace for, 30 plus? But tonight, they do play on the late night, 10:30 Eastern time. They're going to look to go 3-0 this season against the Portland Timbers. I know Ian's going to be dreaming of goals, as it's going to be 3:30 his time. But let me get into my MLS best bet of the weekend. I gave out LAFC Portland over 3. That hit in the 62nd minute last week. This week, I'm looking at another total, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. New York City FC and Miami play, and I'm taking the over 2.5 goals, and it's for one reason only. Maybe you know this, maybe you don't know this, but New York City FC plays their home games in Yankee Stadium for the most part, and because that pitch is extremely small, it's only 110 yards long by 70 yards wide. Because they play in this extremely small pitch, it just becomes a back and forth offensive game, and honestly, last year the odds makers adjusted correctly on making most of their totals over 3.5 goals. I'm not sure if the books are a little bit more intrigued with Championship Week and March Madness at the moment, and they overlooked this one, but you can get that at minus 120, and I locked that baby in. It's a back and forth offensive game in Yankee Stadium, and it's a fun one to watch. So over 2.5 goals, New York City FC and Miami.
Big test for St. Louis tonight against Portland. I think Portland, one of the strongest sides in MLS over the recent years, if I'm not mistaken. So that'll be interesting to see how they face up against one of the big boys.
They are, and in some spots, they're actually favored, this SC team. It's very close. I'll have to look at the odds after this, but it was. I looked at some analytics, and it actually had St. Louis winning 1-0 in a lot of places. So it is Portland is one of the best teams. And when you play out west, it is kind of a little bit different out there. They have probably one of the best fan bases in all of MLS as well. So we look forward to that. We'll let you know next week if we went 3-0. Hopefully we can win that New York City FC and Miami over. But before we sign off, as always on our live betting show here, we have Ian, who has cooked up another EFL parlay, and honestly, we just missed it last week, Ian. Sunderland sold the bag.
Oh, Sunderland, horrible performance. Yeah. Didn't just, but I mean, obviously, yeah, we got 2 out of 3, but Sunderland weren't even close. They got hammered at home. Didn't see that result coming. So let's try and remedy that this week. Yeah, 3 teams, one from the Championship, one from League One, one from League Two. I think it's coming in just a little bit lower than that plus 800 that I said, but hopefully we'll hit this one this week. Obviously, don't, just for a bit of fun, don't put a load of money on it or anything like that. This is purely just to make the bets coming up in the next half an hour a little bit more interesting. We're going to start with Burnley. They're at home to Wigan. They're runaway leaders in the Championship. They've been extremely strong this season. Be very surprised if you don't see another home win there for the Clarets. Then we turn into League One. We've got Peterborough. They're at home to Cheltenham. Usually Peterborough, very strong side at home. Cheltenham need them to lose as well for my beloved OUFC. But yeah, really could do with Peterborough doing us a favour. Usually strong side at home, score a lot of goals. So hopefully that will be 2 from 2 in that one. And finally, a club, one of the 25 clubs that Matt supports. And I have noticed that you've snuck that Chelsea top back on this week, Matt, after they got 2 wins. But yes, one of the many sides that Matt follows up and down the UK is Bradford City. They're having a really good season this season, only 1 defeat in the last 5, climbing up the league. They're away, I think, to Newport this afternoon, but they're a huge club to be in the 4th tier, a club that is way too big to be in the 4th tier of English football. I think they had 20,000 fans for their last home game last weekend, which is incredible. And so do expect is hopefully good times returning to Bradford, and let's hope they can make it our 3rd victory out of these 3, and we collect that parlay and collecting a bit of what's the word? A bit of beer money.
Beer
for the
money.
Weekend.
I like it. I like it. Listen, I'm gonna go put those 3 in right after we get off air, and before we do sign off, folks, I want you to take note of how happy Ian looks right now at this moment, because it might be the last time he's happy all weekend, because in just 30 minutes done, his team, Oxford United, and remember, go over to his channel on YouTube, Ian OUFC, Oxford United is going to take the pitch here in 33 minutes, and it's probably going to anger him. Any thoughts today on Oxford's matchup?
Yes, well, I get generally quite pleased to do this live stream until the very end where you bring it all back to Oxford United. We are in the midst of a miserable run, one of the miserablest I can remember. It's no victory in the last 9 games. It's only 1 draw out of the last 9 games as well. So only 1 point from a possible 27. It's horrific. It's been really bad as well. They were slightly better last weekend against Lincoln. Ultimately can't find a goal, which is one of the big problems they've had all season. They have brought in a new manager. They're going to announce him today, and he's going to start next week. It's Liam Manning.
Liam Manning. Good guy. I think that's the cousin of Eli, Archie, and Peyton, all the Manning brothers. He should be good in that.
Absolutely spot on. He, unlike his brothers, he didn't go down the NASCAR field. He stayed in football. But yeah, he's coming. I mean, that gives us a little bit of hope. That gives us a little bit of hope that he might, raise the level of what we've seen recently. It's a tough game today against Derby. In many ways, it's a bit of a free hit. Not really expecting to get too much out of this one. But if we can, you could just see maybe a little bit of a resurgence in Oxford United at the back end of the season.
Well,
fingers crossed.
I'm a Wickham fan. They play in 33 minutes as well against Burton. I actually will be rooting for Oxford today because I need them to beat Derby to allow maybe Wickham to get up to that 6th spot and have a chance to move up, unlike Oxford, who's just trying not to go down this year.
And if you do want to see one man's descent into madness, I will just give another shameless plug to my YouTube channel where you can see my match reviews, which is almost like me signing myself up for the loony bin week on week.
It's hilarious. I love it. It keeps the humor going, and I actually root now for them to lose just so I can see what kind of anger comes out of you. But
tragedy brings trade. Tragedy brings trade.
Well, that's it, guys, for Edging a Win. We got the audio fixed. I'm proud of that. Glad we got that taken care of. It's been a great show. I will put the 3 bets, or the 4 bets with the MLS. I'll put that in the comments for everybody to see. I know a lot of people came after and kind of watched our show last time and kind of wanted to know. So I'll put those bets in for everybody. But hey, I appreciate Ian. Thank you for joining me again. We'll be back next week, 9 a.m. Eastern Time. Any final thoughts, sir?
Come on, you Yellows. Go Tigers. What's that guy? Who's that? Who's that guy who's got like the really gruff voice from NCAA from college football?
Well,
Go
there's
Tigers!
I don't know who that is. But Patrick
Oh,
Mahomes sounds like Kermit in the NFL.
I think he's like LSU.
Oh, that no, he retired. Yes, that's
Oh.
Ed Orgeron, I believe. He was the coach. Yeah.
Anyway,
But
I
anyways,
like
on that note,
I
thanks
like his
guys for
voice.
sticking around. Thanks for hanging out with us, and we'll see you next week, hopefully on another winning streak. Bye, guys.